Yo, what is up, everybody? It's your boy Soto here with Autumn Windbags, back with another one. All right, today we're talking about, I know something that's been eating at me and is eating at all Raider Nation for years. NFL media hates the Raiders. Every single season they have us winning. Over under is 6.5, 7.5. It's terrible. And most of the time, we're over. This season, 2024, our over under is 6.5 wins. Doesn't make a lot of sense for how we finished last season, but you take a look at the numbers, it starts to take shape. I feel we're going to be well over the 6.5 wins, but today I'm going to show you guys why the NFL media hates the Raiders. All right, if we're going to look forward, we have to first look back. All the problems here are on the offense. I don't think anyone in the NFL media is thinking that we're going to have a bad defense in the third year under Patrick Graham with all the stars that we have lining up and down on the defense. It's all the offense. So let's take a look at what happened last season. So, tale of two seasons, basically, right? You got the first half of the season, JMD and Jimmy Garoppolo. The second half, Antonio Pierce and Aiden O'Connell. All right. You're going to see that there is some change, there is some improvement, but it's not drastic. Okay, let's take a look. So, under JMD and Jimmy G, right, the first 8 weeks of the season, the offense averaged 14.1 points per game. That was ranked 30th in the league. To end the season, so that's everything. The team was 27th in points per game. So they improved, but overall it wasn't drastic. Yards per game under JMD and Jimmy G, they were 31st in the league. We ended up 27th. So it was an improvement, but it wasn't like we were out of the 20s or anything like that. We were still pretty rough. EPA per play, we were 26th with JMD and Jimmy Garoppolo, and we ended the season at 24th in EPA. Okay, now what is EPA? Okay, EPA is expected points added. Basically, a positive EPA increases your chances to score. A negative EPA decreases your chances to score. So it takes into account a lot of things. Okay, it's 3rd and 10, right? And you complete a 9-yard out, and you have to punt the ball. That's not gonna increase your EPA. Okay. Now your quarterback rating, all that stuff, that's gonna go up because it's a completion. You got more yardage, stuff like that. But it doesn't matter for EPA because you didn't get a first down. You're gonna have to punt the ball. It didn't put you in a position for a field goal or anything like that. So that's why I like to use EPA, because it does take into account context, and context is king. So when we take a look at that, the EPA really didn't move that much offensively from the trio of JMD, Lombardi, and Jimmy G to AP, Hardigree, and Aiden O'Connell. This is an issue that I think was a little bit understated last season. And coming into this next season, we're looking at a big jump. We're looking for a big jump here because, look, when you take a look at it from this perspective, it's a miracle we won any games. Arguably, the top 3 positions, the top 3 people on an NFL team are the head coach, the starting quarterback, and the offensive coordinator if it's not the head coach, right? So after AP took over, you have a head coach that has 0 head coaching experience in the NFL. You have an offensive coordinator who has 0 experience being an offensive coordinator at any level. And you have a starting quarterback who only has 1 game of NFL experience starting under his belt. That's a lot to overcome. And they did. And there's a specific reason why. We're going to get into that in a second. But we're first going to talk about what the NFL media sees. All right? So one of the big issues that we're looking at here is the fact that I don't know that the NFL media sees much of a difference in an Aiden O'Connell, even with an improved second year, and a Gardner Minshew. And let's take a look at some numbers because it really makes a lot of sense when you look at it from this perspective. Okay. Aiden O'Connell started 10 games last season, went 5-5. Gardner Minshew started 13 games, went 7-6. Let's look at the last 3 games before Aiden O'Connell took over. They beat the Patriots, they lost to the Bears, and they lost to the Lions. Okay. I think if Aiden O'Connell would have played the game against the Patriots, we still would have won. I also feel that if Aiden O'Connell played against the Bears, we would have won that game. So let's just say it's a wash. Right about the same. Okay? All right. Neither one of these guys came into the year as the starter, so it wasn't like they had a lot of experience and everything going through with the team and all that stuff. It was their first year with each team and all that. Okay, there's that. Completion percentage. All right. Last season, Aiden O'Connell completion percentage, 62.1%. He was 27th in the league. Gardner Minshew, 62.2%. He was 26th in the league. Pretty much the same dude. All right. Okay. Aiden O'Connell, 6.5 yards per pass attempt. That's 25th in the league. Gardner Minshew, 6.7 yards per attempt. That's 23rd in the league. Pretty much the same. All right. Okay. Here's where we start getting digging deeper into some of these numbers, okay? Aiden O'Connell, he was 23rd in EPA per drop back. So just the plays that he dropped back. So he was 23rd in the league, negative 0.04. So he actually diminished overall his team's chances to win when he dropped back. A minute amount, pretty much a wash. Gardner Minshew was 18th in EPA per drop back at 0.01, which is pretty much nothing. It's about the same. He didn't hurt. He didn't help. Also, AOC he was 25th in the league. Play success rate, 39.6% of the plays were successful. Gardner Minshew was 27th, 39.2. Pretty much the same. These guys played pretty much the same. One thing also that I wanted to look at, and we're going to look at this a little bit deeper when you start talking about other things, but just hide this in your hat, okay? Last season, on pass plays, over 10 yards, it's broken down. Why was the ball incomplete? Not your percentage of incompletion, but why was it incomplete? There's a lot of things. You have drops, you have inaccurate throws, you have good plays by the defense, stuff like that, right? Okay. Aiden O'Connell, on passes past 10 yards, was tied for first in the league with the reason why that his incomplete pass was inaccurate. And that's 50%. So half the time he threw an incomplete pass past 10 yards is because he threw a shitty pass. That was tied for worst in the NFL. Fourth worst in the NFL was Gardner Minshew, 46.3%. So it's you're looking at from the outside perspective, you're looking in at an offense that doesn't look like it's going to be very explosive. Okay, I get that. But you can win other ways, right? Well, I don't know. When you take a look at some of the teams that were more explosive, right? You're taking a look at teams that, looking to bypass third down. That's a big thing. How often can you bypass third down? And how often can you stay out of those gotta have the yardage situations, right? Let's take a look at this. Because the way that AP and Hardegree and the Raiders played offense once Aiden O'Connell took over on week 9, they were playing for third down, okay? Most teams in the NFL don't want to get into third down. They would love to have early down first downs. Get a, first and 10, you get 11 yards. Great, perfect. Second and 8, you get 10 yards. Sweet, right? You don't want to hit that third down because, if you fail, you're done, right? You got to kick the ball, you punt the ball off, and you're screwed. Raiders didn't think that way. The Raiders wanted to make a manageable third down to make plays easier. Let's take a look at some of these numbers, okay? On early downs, right, in the first 3 quarters, so early downs, first and second down, Raiders ran the ball at top 10 rate. They were running the ball as much as anyone in the league, right? So 50% of the early downs were runs, right? That's actually ninth highest in the NFL. Okay. Now, instead of prioritizing getting a big play second down, they just wanted to play for a third and short, right? So 56% of their series went to a third down. That was the second highest in the NFL. They actually had the highest percentage of third down plays in the league, but that's only because they didn't turn the ball over a lot. So 24% of their overall plays were third downs. That's the third most in the league. So a quarter of their plays were third down plays. That's how often they were getting into third down. That's how little they were making first downs on early down plays. The team was just not looking downfield to make big chunk plays. And when they did, more often than not, looking at the incompletion numbers, it was run after catch, long runs, stuff like that, maybe penalties, stuff like that. It's tough to win that way. It's tough to matriculate the ball down the field. It's hard to do that because any misstep, you're done. The ball's off and you're screwed. And that shows you that the Raiders had the highest percentage of 3 and outs in the NFL. They didn't really care, right? Because they had that great defense. But is that sustainable over a long period of time? We've seen it a couple times. We've seen it with like the 85 Bears and the 2000 Ravens, but those were like super like packed full of all pros and Hall of Fame defenses that have been doing it for a while. We've only seen this a little bit with the Raiders defense, and we're going to look at that in a second as well. Just to kind of hammer it home, here are the teams that bypassed third down the most, and they were coincidentally, or maybe not coincidentally, some of the best offenses in the league. All right. So you have the two teams that were in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs and the Niners. There were two of the teams that went to third down the least. The Ravens, the Bills, and the Cowboys. Those are the 5 teams that went to third down the least in the NFL. Those are all playoff teams, all, top offenses in the NFL. And there's a reason for that because they get in chunk plays early downs. They're not putting themselves in the position to, if we don't make this play happen, we can just we have to punt, right? They're looking for chunk plays on second down because even if they don't, they still have the ability to get a chunk play on third down. That wasn't the ability of this offense last season, so it's a lot harder for us to move the ball down the field when you're doing 1, 2, 3, first down, 1, 2, 3, first down. It's a lot harder that way. So just to give you a little bit of reference, a little bit deeper, we were 31st in the league, right? 31st in the league in third down plays. 32nd, the very last, was the Panthers at 2-15, the worst team in the league. 30th was the Giants, and they ended up 6-11. So you shouldn't be a good team if you're not getting chunk plays. You shouldn't be a good team if a bulk of your plays go to third down. It's just very difficult to consistently convert third downs and that many in a row to put you in a position to score points. So look, the Raiders didn't fit in, man. They didn't fit into that. They were 31st in the league. They finished 8-9, but that's part of the point. I mean, it was an outlier for the Raiders. It was this is what the NFL media sees. It's lucky. They were lucky to play a style of football that isn't conducive to winning, but they were still winning. Why is that? Okay, let's take a look at what's going on here. On first down, basically what the Raiders were looking for is avoid a negative play, right? Get something. Get 1 yard, get 2 yard, get something. No negative plays on first down. Okay, fine. Second down, the Raiders actually averaged the 5th longest to go. Like they averaged 8.1 yards to go to get a first down on second down. So that goes to show you they weren't about getting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards on they didn't want to get chunk plays on first down, even if it was a small chunk. They just wanted to get something positive on first down. 5th highest to go on second down. Even then, they didn't want to get a big chunk play on second down. And, it kind of worked. Now, here's the thing. They still ran the ball like the 8th highest on second down because they didn't care. They didn't care. They just didn't want to avoid negative plays, right? That's what we're looking at. Now, when they did throw the ball on second down, only 11% of those passes were for a first down, like past the sticks. And when it shows you, and also those passes on second down were like an average of 5.8 air yards. That was like 24th in the league. It's tough to get first downs when you're relying on yards after catch every single time you throw the ball. It's starting to kind of come into shape right now. Those of you, and most of you, I think Raider Nation is a very smart fan base, have watched the games and understand what the team was trying to do, is trying to minimize negative plays, to minimize mistakes, right? To get ourselves into manageable third downs, and it worked. We only, I think, our third down to go was the 7th lowest in the NFL, 6.3 yards. That was like the 7th lowest in the NFL. So it worked. We did get very manageable yards to go on third down. But again, it also resulted in a ton of 3 and outs. The Raiders were like, I think 31% of their drives ended up in 3 and outs. That was like the 6th highest in the NFL. So yeah, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, right? If you're gonna play for a short third down, you're not going to get them all. Third of the time, you're not going to get it. You got to let it go. So if a third of the time you're not getting it, and how many times you have to be successful on those third downs to move the ball down the field, you see why it's very hard to put up a lot of points in this league, and points win games. It's simple as that. We have a great defense, and that's awesome. We keep the other opponent from scoring points, but we saw against Minnesota last season, you can stop the team from scoring a lot of points, but if you don't score points yourself, you ain't winning those games. So why was it so successful for the Raiders? Okay, you take the approach of that offense, very conservative, minimizing mistakes. Even if you do make a mistake, we had like the best punter in the league, right? AJ Cole, definitely a stud. 50% of his punts were down inside the 20. That's second best in the NFL. Now, when you take a look at the fact that how many of our drives were 3 and outs, he was consistently punting from a lot deeper than most punters, because we didn't get that 1-2 first downs to kind of give us some breathing room. A lot of times we were just like 3 and out, boom. And that's he's having to flip that field, and he was flipping the field like a maniac. So that really did help. So all these things work together, right? But how easy is that, or how likely is that to be replicated year after year? Not very. It's tough. And this is, and when we start understanding some of the way a lot of these numbers fit together, we start to see why the NFL media hates us. They think that we're going to be a terrible team this season. I don't think that. I think we're going to freaking kick ass. But you look at these numbers, and it's tough to argue against a lot of this stuff, because there's a ton of going against us, but there's some going for us. And here it is here. Our average starting position was our own 31-yard line. And our opponent's average starting position was a 23-yard line. That's plus 8 yards. And it's the best in the NFL. And the reason for that is, even when we did kick the ball to the opponents, our defense locked it down, didn't let them get yards, and forced them to kick back to us. And we were at a much better position, gaining a first down on the opposing team. So that's where we were able to flip the field in a positive light and give our offense chances to score. On top of that, we were really good in field goal range. I want to take a look at that in a second. The Raiders had the fewest drives to end in turnover, right, in the league. I think it was 4% or something like that. It was just a low percentage of drives. We had a lot of drives, but a low percentage of them went to turnovers. Number 1 in the league, turnovers per drive. Excellent, right? But we had the 7th most punts per drive. So we were punting the ball a ton. Now, that kind of goes hand in hand. You're not taking the chances. You're not turning the ball over. Okay. I think there's a happy medium where we can maybe put the ball a little bit more at risk for the reward because we do have some very good players on the outsides. But another thing that we talked about to get back to scoring points that involve special teams is how good we were on third downs in field goal range. It's a weird stat to look at, but when you're already in field goal range, how good are you at getting yourself a better field goal, right? An easier field goal? Or how good are you at pushing the ball into the red zone and then into, the goal line situations? So we were number 2 in EPA per play in the red zone, in field goal range on third downs. So we were constantly picking up first downs. Once we got the ball in field goal range, I think maybe we loosened up a little bit and opened the ball up a little bit, but we definitely executed. We were also like 100% under AP in goal to go situations. If we got the ball goal to go, we scored touchdowns 100% of the time. And it's not surprising that Aiden O'Connell was the most accurate quarterback with goal to go. So all that stuff works together, right? And so in that sense, it did kind of work. You want to trust your defense. You want to trust your punter to keep pinning the offensive back, keep pinning the opposing offense back, giving them long plays, giving them long drives. And when they do make a mistake and we capitalize, make sure we get the big points. It was a bold strategy, Cotton, but it worked to an extent. Again, we were still only 24th in the league, actually 27th in the league in points scored. Better than 30th. It's something that it was successful last season, but we need to get more from this offense if we're going to take that jump, that offense to take that jump. Just to show you how big of a difference Aiden O'Connell was in field goal range and not in field goal range, all right? Aiden O'Connell had a 0.53 EPA per attempt. That was third in the league and 128% passer rating. That's number 5 in the league when he was on third down in field goal range. So this dude in field goal range on third downs was constantly picking up first downs, pushing the ball further down the field, picking up big chunk plays. All right. This wasn't the case when he on third downs, not in field goal range. He was negative 0.3 EPA. That was 24th in the league from 5th to 24th. And the team converted just 36% of those first downs. That's 23rd in the league. That's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough when you don't get there very much. Now, those numbers, if Aiden O'Connell can keep those numbers and get the ball into field goal range more often, of course, it's going to be a lot more points, a lot more sustained drives, stuff like that, a lot more rest for your defense. Just it wasn't how it panned out. This is why it's very important for us to get those chunk plays out of this offense to get into that field goal range and to use what Aiden O'Connell does well to score points. All right, let's summarize this bad boy, okay? Because we went through a lot of numbers. So summarize. We were the number 2 worst team at skipping third downs. But it was intentional, but we still were, right? Okay. We wanted to set up third down short, and our play calls on second down really did reflect that, okay? We averaged a shorter down to a first down on third downs. We're the 7th shortest to go in the league, right? And if we punted, which we did at, the second highest rate, we were the second highest rate of getting the opponent inside the 20. So even if the offense didn't move the ball, we were able to flip the field on the opposing offense. Now, we were also the number 1 best field position margin to start drives because our defense was good with getting the ball back to us, and we were gaining basically 8 yards on a flip, which is pretty massive. I mean, it's the reason why it was number 1. It's really good. Okay. Now, if we didn't punt and we moved into field goal range, we were the number 2 most EPA per play on third down within field goal range. That's freaking amazing, right? But you got to get there, right? You got to get there. And the last thing is we were 100% on touchdowns when we got to goal to go situations. So it's a unique strategy, right? It's not something that can be sustained for a long period of time. But for that short period of time, for those 10 games, it seemed to work with what we had to work with. Again, zero head coaching experience, zero offensive coordinator experience, only one game when he took over with AP of starting NFL experience for your quarterback. Those are probably your three most important people in your franchise there. So I get it. I understand. I think everyone, you guys do too. You had to play this way because of inexperience at coach, inexperience at coordinator, inexperience at quarterback, and all this great. You use what's good. You use your defense. You got a great defense. You use it, right? You use your punter. You use your field goal kicker. Use them because they're great, and it worked. How sustainable is that moving in to this next season? Okay, when you take a look at the fact that, and this is still baking in an Aiden O'Connell second year leap, or Gardner Minshew taking over. I don't know if you've heard recently, but Gardner Minshew is looking really good with padded practices. Okay, and this is, we're talking like hits to the quarterback, down to the ground, full scrimmages. Okay, we're talking about live rounds here. So, from an outsider's perspective, looking in, the big number one issue is this offense. How much better can this offense be with two quarterbacks who are pretty much the same guy, right? Now you do expect maybe a second year leap from AOC. Okay. Maybe Gardner Minshew is able to run this offense a little bit better because he's a little bit more mobile. He can extend plays a little bit more. Okay, I get that. But even if they do, how different is the strategy going to be if these guys are pretty much the same quarterback? You take a look at other teams who play similar to how we played, and they weren't good. They didn't win a lot of games doing it. So I can see it from that perspective. All right. Another thing that we've been hearing a lot in the media is that Davante Adams wants out, or is going to want out, or he's not going to be happy. So that's a second big thing here. First one was its offense in general. The second one is how you're going to keep your one superstar on offense happy. Look, remember this? Remember the stat I told you to remember for later? Over 10 yards. Passes over 10 yards. The reason for the incompletion, half the time with Aiden O'Connell, was because he was inaccurate. 46.3, something like that, percent of the time for Gardner Minshew was because he was inaccurate. That's first worst and fourth worst in the league last season. It wasn't like it was one or two games. It was, 10 games for one and 13 games for the other. It's a decent sample size here. So how are you going to keep Davante Adams happy when you throw him the ball past 10 yards, when he can make big plays, you're inaccurate half the time? That's tough, man. It's tough. Now, last season, Davante Adams ran 127 go routes, okay? Just 9 down the field, okay? This is freaking crazy. On 63% of his targets, he had an inaccurate throw. 63% of his targets on go routes were inaccurate throws to him. Bro, when you take a look at these numbers together, so you now see where it's starting to make sense, right? All these numbers, you put them together, and it's like, dude, you have two guys who are inaccurate throwing the ball deep. You have a deep threat, not a conventional speedster, but still a great deep threat. And when you throw the ball to him, and 63% of his incompletions were inaccurate throws. That's tough, man. It's tough. Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. 63% of his targets overall on go routes were inaccurate. It's going to take one or both of these guys, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, to drastically improve on that in order to loosen up the defense enough for us to operate over the middle. You saw what happened last season. Teams had zero confidence that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be able to beat them deep. So what did they do? They packed everything in. When he threw it deep, it was inaccurate. When he threw it short, he threw a lot of interceptions, okay? So this all goes hand in hand. Just to give you a little bit of reference, okay? Davante Adams averaged 0.24 yards on go routes per route. So a quarter of a yard per go route. He was like what? He was like 43. He ranked last out of receivers that ran 100 plus go routes. He was dead last. First was Tyreek Hill with 4 yards per go route. So, like something like, what is that? 16 times. Like, look, there is a reason why the team didn't look as explosive offensively. Is we didn't look to throw the ball deep that much anyway. And when we did, half the time we were inaccurate throwing our best guy the ball. That's tough, man. I mean, more than half, 63%. That has to change, and that's up to Luke Getsy to figure out how we're going to make this a change. Yes, you have Tucker, and you have Myers, and you have Bowers, and you have Mayer, and you have these guys that can, Lauby, and you have, these guys, Amir Abdullah. Yeah, these guys that catch the ball out of the backfield. But there's a lot of guys in between you and the first down marker to be able to rely on chunk plays, run after catch plays, yak. It's hard to push the ball down the field relying on run after catch. There's a few things that need to be better, and it's all based around accuracy. Because, I mean, when Aiden O'Connell did throw the ball deep, right, when he did throw it the go route, he averaged 29 air yards per go route. That was like the number one deepest in the NFL. He threw the ball, when he wanted to throw the ball deep, he threw it deep. And he had a 23% completion rate. Not good. That was 44th out of 48 quarterbacks. So it was more of like, oh, screw it. I'm just going to throw it and see what happens. That's not a great strategy to have. You want to have a lot higher percentage rate of completion than that. It's just not going to cut it. All these things are working together. All these things are you're putting all these ingredients into the stew, and you're seeing why this team struggled pushing the ball down the field. We didn't throw the ball deep anyway, and when we did, we were inaccurate. We just hucked it up basically. Now look at Minshew. Now Minshew's had different targets, right? But if you look at Minshew, he averaged 23 yards per go route. That was like 28th. So it was, less than average. But you take a look at 25 yards downfield, the average, the middle in between the two guys, 25 yards downfield. They each had a 34. They were tied for 34th in success rate. So they still were the same guy throwing the ball deep. If you're looking at it from the outside looking in, and you don't look at context, you don't look at what all the stuff that Aiden O'Connell had to overcome. You don't look at all the stuff. You look at our targets and our offensive weapons, and you discount them, which I think the NFL media is. And you see Gardner Minshew coming in, and you don't see that he's got something that can help us extend plays and to help give these players a better chance to succeed, to run after catch. It looks pretty bad. And now you're understanding why the NFL media does not like the Raiders. All right. There's the offensive side. Let's take a look at the defensive side. After week 9, so when AP took over, the Raiders had the number 1 lowest points per game allowed. Freaking A, right? Let's build on that this next coming season. We got Christian Wilkins coming in. We got some good rookies coming in. We got Eichenberg. We got Jacorian Bennett coming in and emerging his second year. We have a ton of guys in the secondary. We got Isaiah Polamau making plays. Look like he's going to take a big step up. All right, great. How is that going to work for the entire season? When you look at an entire season, this defense was pretty healthy the entire year, right? Okay, can you expect that to happen again? I don't know. But we have a lot of guys. And the health factor helped us defensively. We had our main guys were in there most of the time, especially after AP took over. The emergence of Jack Jones, you get Hobbs back and playing well. Okay, got all that going for you, right? So the big deal with the Raiders defense last year was takeaways. Now, when you go back to the fact that we had the second highest percentage of punts go inside the 20, when you take a look at those turnovers, right? When you get turnovers from your defense and then you see how good we were when we were in field goal range offensively. That's where you see some of the stuff stacking on top of each other, right? Okay, when we got a takeaway, we were 7-3 last season. When we didn't get a takeaway, we were 1-6. That's the biggest swing in the NFL last year. That goes to show you the offense is not built to consistently go down the field for long drives. You give them short drives and they can make you pay. Case in point, great inside field goal range. Great. I mean, stupendous. Can't get any better on goal to go situations. Give them the ball with a short field and they're going to put up points. You can't rely on that all the time. The offense has to go ahead and pick up their end of the slack when the defense can't take the ball away. That's to get a stop and it's a good punt. What are you going to do? You're facing a good punter. You're just not going to score. You're not going to make those big drives. It's tough, man. It's a tough situation because you have to be able to score regardless of who you're going up against, whether it's a defense or a really good special teams. All right. Not only that, let's take a look at some of these games that AP coached, okay? Week 9, instead of facing Daniel Jones, they got Tommy DeVito from like the second quarter on. Week 10, instead of facing Aaron Rodgers, we got MILF Hunter, Zach Wilson. Okay. Week 11, we got Tua, all right? Week 12, we got Mahomes. Week 13 was a bye. Okay. Week 14, instead of Kirk Cousins, we got Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins. You see what I'm saying here, guys? In week 15, instead of Justin Herbert, we got Easton Stick. In week 16, we got Mahomes again, got the dub. Week 17, instead of Anthony Richardson, we got Gardner Minshew. And then week 18, instead of Russell Wilson, we got Jarrett Stidham. So this goes to show you how big of a swing this made in the strength of schedule. Because the Raiders, to start the season by win-losses the year before, they had the second toughest strength of schedule. At the end of the season, they ended up with the 24th strength of schedule because of having to face all these backup quarterbacks because the starters were out for extended periods of time. What does that say about this defense? You're looking at 10 games, and 7 out of those 10 games, you faced a backup quarterback. Now, granted, 2 of them were Mahomes that you faced, and one was a very explosive team in Miami, and I don't think we had let any one of those teams just totally bomb on us. Maybe Mahomes scored some late, but we still did really well. Okay. When you're looking at it from that perspective, all right, you're saying, yeah, they were good, but it's confirmation bias. If you already have a bad view of a team for some reason, you're going to take a look at some of these things. Oh, yeah, well, they were only that good because they were facing a lot of backup quarterbacks. You really can't argue that. But what also it can't be argued is the fact that this team played much better and much more sound defensively after AP took over. All right. So from the mindset of the NFL media, why are the Raiders going to struggle in 2024? The big one's the quarterback situation. It's a big area for concern, and I don't know that the NFL media feels there's much of a difference between Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. Now, I will say this. I think that we have better weapons offensively than Minshew had in Indy last season. Also, I don't think you can discount the fact that Aiden O'Connell was all but ignored to start the season by Josh McDaniels. And that lack of development during those first, 8 weeks or so of the season is huge because he was thrown right into the fire and he won games right away. And I'm not trying to say he got better, but he got better at playing the style that AP wanted him to play. The problem is we can't win going forward playing that same way. we're going to have to get more out of the offense. We're going to have to get more than what we asked out of the quarterback position. Is Aiden O'Connell capable of giving us that? Is Gardner Minshew at this point in their careers more capable of giving us what we need? Honestly, I'm not sure. That's why this preseason season is going to be very important. We all know AP said you're going to see a lot of starters in the preseason. Is to get familiar with the system, is to see who's going to play, who's going to start. I think it's going to be mostly because of the quarterback position. Who's going to be better at quarterback? You don't want to see your quarterback be good throwing to backups. You want to see your quarterback be good throwing to the starters. So who knows, right? That's a big area of concern from the NFL media, and it should be a concern of ours as well. Also, I don't know that the NFL media really is too impressed with our depth at running back. Now, we see Zamir White for the last 4 games of last season when he got consistent carries. The issue is, Zamir White was like 43rd out of running backs with like a 35% success rate on his runs. That was the entire season. That wasn't just the last 4 games. And we know that it's hard to get a running back going when they're getting 1 carry, 2 carries a game. And so Zamir White does look to be a guy that he's more of a diesel engine. The more you give him, the better he's going to play. And he better be durable because we're going to give him the ball a lot. And here's what big one. And this kind of, think of everything that we talked about, how we played offense, the defense, what had to happen for us to kind of play together with special teams to get our offense to be able to score more points. This is not going to surprise you. Under AP last season, with the strategy that he had offensively playing towards his defense and special teams, okay? Keep that in mind. An AP team last season never came back from 7 points. If a team had a 7-point lead anytime during that game, we lost that game. So if we kicked the ball off and the team ran the ball down the field on us and scored a touchdown to start the game, we were going to lose that game regardless of what happened. That kind of plays into the style of offense we were playing. It's not a type of offense you can play when you're trying to come back. Case in point, Aiden O'Connell got the ball late, trying to come back against Minnesota, throws a pick. Aiden O'Connell got the ball late, driving the ball against the Colts, threw a pick to end the game. It's not an offense that you can just let a guy drop back and just wing the ball around because you're not successful throwing it past 10 yards. So the offenses and the line, it was a linebacker interception on both plays, right? Goes to show you the linebackers are squeezing the lanes and you're throwing picks, right? It's tough to push the ball down the field when you're not used to it or maybe not good at it. I'm still hoping, right, that we can get better at that position. So those are 3 reasons why I think that the NFL media is very down on us. It's a quarterback situation, the issue at running back overall, and also just overall the offense is not built to come back from 7 points down. Okay, now there's the yin, now the yang. There's some reasons for optimism, right? As bad as the start was with Josh McDaniels and Jimmy Garoppolo last season, the turnaround was amazing. The turnaround was great in morale, in buy-in, in just leadership emerging, in the defensive play, all stuff that can bounce into this next season. It's going to have to too, because we're going to need that type of effort throughout the entire year. There's a reason why the phrases second-year leap and sophomore slump are as widely well known as each other. They're equally as well known because they're equally likely to happen. I personally think that Aiden O'Connell taking a second-year leap and Aiden O'Connell having a sophomore slump are equally as likely because of some of these numbers that we saw. Trust me, guys. If Aiden O'Connell was better at passing the ball 10 yards or more down the field, they would have done it more often. But he wasn't, so they didn't. They had to play the way they were playing because they weren't being successful doing the things that they weren't successful at, if that makes sense. Number 2, reason for optimism. The limiting of turnovers and getting turnovers from the defense. There's a reason why we're plus five in turnover margin under AP. I think we're like 5th best in the league during that time, the last 10 games. Okay. If that continues and we're able to have these guys like Brock Bowers, a second-year Trey Turner, you got these guys at running back, Lauby's good. You got, Abdullah, you got White, you got these guys you can get the ball to. You got a second year in Mayer who can emerge as a big-time tight end. Myers, got all these guys, right? If you're getting them short fields and you're able to duplicate, maybe not exactly, but have a very similar success rate inside of field goal range, you have more weapons this season than you had last season. So with more weapons come different coverages, come better offensive plays, better individual efforts. Maybe it's more points, more touchdowns. Who knows? But that's another reason for optimism. I think we have a much better offensive weaponry than we had last season. Another one is our special teams. I think our punter-kicker combo is the best in the league. I've said it. RJ said it a bunch of times. It's freaking good. And if it can be the same as it was last season, it's only going to help boost the defense by pinning teams back further and have that confidence to move the ball into field goal range with the kicker, Carlson, that we have. So, what is my prediction? My prediction is we are going to win 10 games this season, maybe 11. Here's the main reason why. The quarterback position is going to fall into place. Now, I'm not saying that these guys are going to be world beaters or these guys are going to be a ton better than what they've shown us. But not everything goes wrong in the NFL season. I said it last year. Not everything goes wrong, and a lot of things didn't go wrong. But when you take a look at the probability of a second-year leap from Aiden O'Connell, when you take a look at just the doggedness and the underrated ability of a Gardner Minshew. Remember, Gardner Minshew beat this defense last season. Gardner Minshew with the whole camp being one of the guys up front. Let's say they go with Minshew instead of Aiden O'Connell. You're going to have a different dynamic at quarterback who's going to be able to extend plays. Once you extend a play past its normal design scheme, you have the probability for big plays if they're completions because you get breakdown in the secondary, you get guys that are just, lost, blown coverages, stuff like that. You get guys out of position because they're trying to make a big play and you're able to squeeze the ball and the guy runs for another 10, 15 yards. Extending plays when you have to does result in bigger plays. Those bigger chunk plays are going to do a couple of things. It's going to squeeze down the amount of third downs you're going to have to see because you're shortening the field. So it gets you into scoring range a lot quicker. It's going to take a little bit of the burden off the defense, give them a little bit more of a rest, and also a little bit more of a deep breath, exhale out if you're scoring more points. All right, guys, that's my time for today. I know we went through a lot. Watch it 2-3 times if you have to. But I think all these numbers work together and let you know why the NFL media hates the Raiders. Here's the issue. That was last year. This is this year. It's a new season. It's a new team, a fresh outlook. We got some great new players on the team, and I think we're going to be in contention to win the AFC West. Let me know what you guys think. And until next time, everybody, peace.